First of all, my name is Justin Williams. It's nice to meet you. Thank you so much for having time to sit down with us today. It means a lot to us. The first question I want to ask you is, we know that you're involved with gang prevention and gang awareness, and you give presentations in the community as far as helping with gang climate. How has that been affected with recent police relations?
Well, I do give a lot of presentations in English and in Spanish about gangs. The best thing the first thing I want you to know about gangs is that there are a lot of kids who are, let's realize there are a lot of kids that are gang members Monday through Friday, 7 to 3, when they're in school.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times when they go home, mom and dad won't tolerate that. Or mom and dad are there and they're in tune to what's going on. So some kids are that way because, realistically, because of the climate of the community. They have to be in certain organizations in order to make it home, in order to be a part of this, to feel safe in certain circles that they may run in. With the climate that's going on now with the police, I think that these conversations that we're having, even this conversation, is helping to build a bridge with the community, because we need to talk. We need to have open, candid conversations about what's going on. There's a Latin song called La Guerra de los Callados, which means the war of the silent ones. And that says, essentially in that song, that you can't hide in your house like the problems of the world can't touch you. You can't hide in your house like the things that are going on around you can affect you, when they really do. So these things that are going on in the community, because we love Durham, we work in Durham, we live in Durham, we have kids in Durham, then the things that affect Durham affect us. And we have to, I've got to be able to let my guys that work with me know and see not only the community, but see that person that they're dealing with. And by the same token, I want people to understand that we put on a uniform every day, but I'm still a person.
Okay. And with especially with that still being a person, especially with some of the demographics in northern Durham and eastern Durham, especially dealing with gang populations, how much of the Durham Sheriff Office or the Durham Police Department are made up of black and brown faces?
Well, I don't know necessarily about the police department. I think we have, including the jail, including like the jail, the people who work in the jail,
Yes.
the sheriff's department as a whole.
Yes, sir.
I can also give him specific numbers
Okay.
later. Yeah.
Okay.
Because we'd be guessing.
Yeah, I'd be
Okay.
guessing right now, but what I can tell you is that when it comes to the black and brown faces, instead of just focusing more on the black and brown faces, what we try to do is we try to make sure that anybody that we have that's employed recognizes that there are people that they deal with. I don't want somebody to see me on the street and just approach me and want to talk to me because they see that I'm a black male, and so they say, oh, I want to go talk to him, because then if I go into another neighborhood and I see a white person, who I expect them to approach me with the same respect that I'm approaching them, and see me with the same level of respect and not indifference than they would anybody else.
Okay. Especially was talking about, speaking to you just because you're a black male versus, a white police officer of any gender. What do you think has contributed to the strain between the public and police officers?
Social media. Let me explain. I go to a lot of different places and I sit on a lot of panels, and there are a lot of people who have conversations. When we speak and bring things close to Durham, here's what I know. I know that when I talk to a lot of kids nowadays, and I go to classrooms and I speak to them, they talk to me about Michael Brown. They talk to me about Eric Gardner. They talk to me about things like that, and people like that who've been in situations with law enforcement where they have unfortunately lost their lives. But the sad reality of it is that right now in Durham, since January of 2015, we've had 464 African American males shot by other African American Latino males. But no one's talking about that. That's not the story that's going to make the news. And when people hear that number, they're like, what? Really? Really? So the sad part is that it's unfortunate that we had the Michael Browns and the Eric Gardners, but hopefully they will help us to cast a net and to stand in our own truth and see the mirror that's in front of us, to deal with the brothers that are here that are dying on the street. Let's deal with the brothers here that are shooting each other for no reason, senselessly. So if black lives are truly going to matter, they have to matter to all of us. And if that's the case, then that shouldn't be our driving force about what happened in another state, when we have situations here on our home front that we're not willing to really look at. we have to stand in our truth with that. And a lot of people don't recognize those numbers. They don't recognize those things that are going on. There are situations, and I would not sit here and tell you that all law enforcement officers are perfect. I'm not going to lie to you like that. You know, law enforcement officers come from the community. But what I will tell you is we have things in place, checks and balances, so people can, if you have a complaint or if something is bothered or something happened that you don't agree with, you file that complaint. And I assure you that something will be done. Some action will be taken to look into that complaint. And today you may file a complaint and say, nothing happened. But believe me, something happened. Somebody took notice about what's going on. And somebody gives you an adequate redress for the concerns that you have.
Going back to one of the things you were saying earlier, especially with social media, there's this kind of disconnect between representation in social media as well as, I guess, broadcast media about the criminality of black men. What do you think creates that image of criminality, or what do you think plays into that?
I believe in honestly speaking, and speaking candidly, okay? We saw, and I will use this to answer your question. We saw the case with Trayvon Martin, okay? And we saw it play out all in the media. And we realized that what they put up on the screen to really villainize Trayvon was his Facebook page. I'm a thug, I'm this, that, and the other. And sometimes we don't realize in our youth that there are things that we do to paint a picture of ourselves, or a certain way that we may carry ourselves. What I do, I leave, and when I leave work, and if I'm going out there to work out or something, I'm mindful now that if it's dark and I'm walking somewhere, I'm mindful about my hood that I have up. I'm mindful not only because, okay, I think that I'm warm and it's comfortable, but I need to also manage the perception for others that are around me, because I don't know exactly what they're thinking. And not that just because I have my hood up, does that make me a suspect? No, it doesn't. But if I had somebody coming toward me with a hood up and I couldn't see their face, is there a question in my mind about their intentions? Absolutely.
I think moving forward from that question, I guess moving into a more recent event as far as police brutality or police relations, we with Philando Castile, spinning that into basically, if you could just define for me, you know, from an officer standpoint, what are Terry stops and what is furtive movement?
Okay. A Terry stop is if you think that somebody may possess a weapon or something like that, you have a right to frisk them, and that is to check them for weapons and this, that, and the other. Make sure that they don't have any weapons, something that's going to hurt you or could hurt someone else or even cause themselves harm. That's a Terry frisk. Okay. Furtive movements is in the eyes of the person that's dealing with that situation, because for me, I'm almost 6 feet tall and I weigh 280 pounds. What I would consider a furtive movement, another officer may take a lesser degree to consider a furtive movement. If you sit there now and we're in a different situation and you reach in your pocket to grab something, well, I might be close enough that I know that, wait a minute, what are you doing? But that's because I see myself and I address this situation, but I can't speak for everybody else and how they're going to view that situation. So the furtive movement deals with the perception of that officer that's dealing with that situation at that particular time, because their safety and the safety of everyone that's around them is in question. So they're the ones that have to make that. I can't sit here being a Rosetta Stone for furtive movements, because that's not fair. That's not fair to our profession.
Okay. I guess moving forward and even deeper into the conversation from that point, we did a little bit of research, and one of the things that was found was that in the city of Durham, or the county of Durham originally, according to the NC NC Department of Safety, the amount of traffic stops, amount of citations, amount of written and verbal citations, and arrests for African Americans is 2 to 3 times higher than for their white counterparts. In the city of Durham alone, it is 3 to 4 times higher than their white counterparts. What do you think contributes to that statistic?
I don't think it'd be fair to anybody for me to sit here and say that there's any one thing that may contribute to that, because if you have officers who are out and they work in a particular area, and that particular area may be predominantly African American, the predominant people that they're probably going to be stopping are going to be African Americans. So you may have officers in this area that are more, let's say, active than you may have officers in another area. But just because they may stop 10 cars here and they only stop 1 car here, your statistics is going to show that the numbers are higher over here, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the officer's doing something wrong. It just means that that is the characteristic and the nature of that officer in doing their job. There may be things that may be going on. I'll give you an example. I was behind a car this morning. The guy was through my vents. All I could smell was marijuana. Marijuana, marijuana, marijuana. He was obviously driving his car, going to work for his nice job, smoking before he went to work. Well, I was about to stop the car, and another car came and almost hit that car coming through the intersection. So my question was, do I follow this car that's got the marijuana, or do I deal with that person who's already shot through an intersection? Where would you go? You know. So I went to the one that was actually shot through the intersection. So I went behind that one, not necessarily about now, does that mean that marijuana is not important? It's illegal, but that mean it's not. It's kind of like a triage thing. The person who just came and shot through that intersection without due regard for everybody else caught my attention more than the person that's in front of me with marijuana, okay? So that may be the same way that another officer on the street may play their traffic stops. They may stop somebody not because they see the person, but because of the fact of the offense. And you got to understand, I encourage anybody to come and sit in our patrol cars and ride with us. I'm not trying to negate the statistics or anything. I just want to, in order for us to have a candid conversation, we've got to see it from both sides. And in order to see it from our sides, it's dark. This morning it was dark. I couldn't tell you if it was a black male or white male, Hispanic male or Asian male that was driving that car smoking weed. I couldn't tell you that. I couldn't tell you except when